Christ is king, it's where we belong. Stay with the dream, don't lose your way. Right way's the fire that'll light the day. Keep it simple, let the moment arrive. 3-8 trap keeps the hope alive. Hold on tight till the signal's near. Right way's the trail, we're breaking through fear.
Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for October 2nd, 2025. Well, I hope everyone had a good rest last night, ready for another wild day in the market. As I said yesterday in the video, even though we had pushed way lower in the overnight in our futures and we're gapping down in the morning, I said I wouldn't put it past this market to shake it off and continue to rally. And boy, did we do that, setting new record highs in the Diamond, SPY, and QQQ yesterday as the market just shook it off and said, we don't care about the government shutting down. We want to buy something. So let's take a look at what's happening today. First off, if we take a look at Asian markets zoomed last night. OpenAI created partnerships with a couple of South Korean companies, and South Korea hit new record highs last night. We've got Australian markets up, closed the day up $100.20 or 1.13%, zooming higher. The Nikkei up 385.88 or 0.87%. India soared 225.20 or 0.92%, while Hong Kong got really took off 431.56, and Shanghai 1.61%, and Shanghai up 20.24 or 0.52%. So really strong in those moves last night, continuing to run to the upside strongly. So, and Hong Kong just really knocking it out of the park last night. South Korea up 93.38, hitting those new record highs, up 2.70%. If we take a look at European markets last night, European markets, well, I shouldn't say last night, this morning. European markets this morning are also zooming in a big way up on the share sales of OpenAI. OpenAI sold 6.6 billion shares for a $500 billion valuation. They were hoping that that would be something like a $10.3 billion valuation, but the market is seeing this as extremely bullish and all pushing to the upside here in Europe. Right now, the DAX tech stocks are zooming higher, up 312.02, 1.29% here this morning. FTSE is up 1116.12%, and the CAC is up 93.10 or 1.17% this morning. If we look at U.S. futures, well, we've got a little bit of a mix. Right now, we have the Dow futures modestly lower, down 27 points at the moment. S&P 500 futures, however, are up $11.25, and the NASDAQ futures pushing up as tech continues to zoom. Just ticked up 90 points here in the NASDAQ futures, so keep an eye on that here this morning. If we take a look at what's happening in bonds, interestingly enough, we have bonds kind of taking a break here as we kind of hit this blackout period here for economic data with the government shut down. 2-year bonds are coming in at 3.54%. Remember, our high point on this was 3.60% just a couple of days ago. The 10-year bonds coming in at 4.1%. 4.10%. That's down from 4.14 a couple of days ago. And our 30-year bonds coming in at 4.70%. That's about 5 points lower from a couple of days ago. If we take a look at what that is doing to our dollar, well, the U.S. dollar here this morning, we're still moving a little bit lower, feeling pressure here still in that dollar, pushing down. Now, we still have that chance that we can hold this little upside trend in here. We'll want to watch that carefully, trying to hang on in here, but unfortunately, still feeling a little bit of bearish pressure here this morning, down about 13 cents here this morning. If we take a look at what's happening in precious metals, well, gold continues to stay pretty feisty here. Gold this morning back above $3,900 an ounce at $3,906. Up $8.60 an ounce in futures here this morning, continuing to push higher. Silver, however, after a big day yesterday, pulling back just a little bit, only down 17 cents, still coming in at 47.5 an ounce on silver. Copper had reversed its move to the downside first thing in the morning yesterday and moved back higher, and we can see miners never blinked, just continued to move to the upside here in copper as we continue to just stretch and run here in these mining stocks. Copper right now is up 8 cents, just a little over 8 cents this morning, and moving higher. Platinum is also moving up. We gapped down yesterday, pushed back, and now gapping higher this morning, right now up $19.30 an ounce, or 1.21%. And we've got palladium moving higher as well, up $22.10 an ounce, or 1.73%. Cryptos had a zooming move yesterday, huge move, and they are continuing to fly here this morning. At the moment, we have Bitcoin up $1,281.81 a coin, 1.09%. Ether also continuing higher, up 57.34 a coin, 1.32%. And Solana moving higher here by $5.40, or 2.45%. If we take a look at oil this morning, we've got oil down just a little bit again today. Oil at the moment down 25 cents a barrel, 61.55 a barrel, and you can see we're coming into some of these recent lows here in oil. We'll want to be watching that pretty closely. Brent crude also falling, coming down to 64.94 a barrel, and natural gas continuing to pull back after a big run to the upside, just resting in here, I should say, down about 6 cents at 1.81% lower here this morning. So pretty interesting market here. It would seem, by looking at the indexes, man, the only thing we needed to have happen here is to have the government shut down to make new record highs. Unfortunately, there are some things in here that we'll certainly want to be paying attention to that still raise a little bit of concern. If we take a look at our VIX started higher yesterday, and interestingly enough, turned in at one point in time. We had a bearish engulfing candle there on the VIX, and as we surged up at the end of the day, well, our VIX started to go back up just a little bit. So keep an eye on this. We're continuing to make higher lows here in the VIX. We haven't been able to break this major resistance here in the chart, but the VIX has been running up in higher lows as the market has been making new record highs. One of those situations that you just want to mark up for a little bit of caution. Stay with the direction of the market, but be really careful in case that happens to shift. And then if we look at our T2122, our T2122 yesterday opened lower. We were pushing down into this area and then slowly but steadily continued to reverse to the upside, and then we surged at the end of the day. By the end of the day, we were up here just above 50%. So we'll have to keep an eye on that here today. We've got about an equal weight for an upside move and a downside move here this morning. So maybe the celebration here in OpenAI is going to fuel us to continue to pump out some new record highs, particularly in the NASDAQ and the QQ, the SPY. If we take a look at what we've got going here in T2108. T2108 spent most of the day lower and falling, but that zoom at the end of the day brought us back up. We were still making new highs in the market, and T2108 was still down, and at the end of the day, in that zooming move to the upside, we pushed this up and got it turned just a little bit to the positive. So if the bulls can continue to find that inspiration, let's look for a retest up here, see if we can break back through that 50% area here in the chart and then start stretching back up. Maybe we can push up here even toward 55 with a good push in the market today. And we certainly have the setup with European and Asian markets really celebrating today. Maybe we can get involved in that as well, despite the government shutdown. If the bears have anything to say, you can see it wouldn't take much to create that new low, new recent low here in the market and hold through the end of the day either. So watch that carefully. Our T2107 was flat to lower most of the day, and then once again turned up here at the end of the day. So still holding strongly there in T2107, percentage of stocks above the 200-day. If those bulls can continue that inspiration here, maybe we can push on through and get back up here and retest this 55% area in the chart, and who knows, maybe even pop on through, test this area up here in the chart, that recent high. If the bears were to be inspired here, then breaking back down to test this area and maybe even 50% area here in the chart is what we want to see. Here's what's interesting is as we rallied at the end of the day, our breadth continued to weaken. So we continue to see this very interesting situation here where we're pushing up and pushing up with far less participation as you would expect in a market like this. And what this does set us up for, although I'm still long the market, I don't have any short positions, I'm continuing to stay long the market. But at the same time, I am very cautious and watchful for that possibility of a big reversal and potentially even a big whipsaw or multiple whipsaws in the market because this breadth being so low. So watch that carefully. If we continue to rally back up here in the market, setting new record highs as our breadth declines, that's a problem. And we'll want to be watching that closely. Perhaps if those bulls really get inspired today, we'll see that breadth improve on the buy wave. That's what we need to see if we can start gaining a little bit more confidence in the strength of the market to the upside. Then keeping in mind, if those bears were to have anything to say and they were to really come in, we could also see that breadth increase on that bearish wave. So watch that carefully here. It's a very interesting market right now and really is showing and displaying all of those signs of potential bubble and overextension here in the market. Kind of that radical enthusiasm here in the market continuing to push us higher. That being said, new record highs here are likely today at the open, particularly in the NASDAQ and the SPY. We may be pushing that in the diamonds as well. We'll see if the pre-market bulls can continue to soak up that selling and push us on through here to the upside. So watch that carefully. Let's take a look at what we've got going here in in these index charts. And if the bears were to have anything to say today, well, testing a little bit of support right in here, and we're in good shape. If we push down in there, we could bounce off of that, no problem. Pushing on down into here would be a little bit of an issue, maybe, particularly if we broke that. But as I said before, until we take out that low, I don't think it's really going to matter that much. What we're looking at here today is pretty simple. We made new record highs, just barely squeaked out new record highs yesterday in the diamonds, and well, new record highs here at the open are certainly likely, where we can push up in blue sky above. Maybe we're back up here testing this high print in the chart, see if we can break that shooting star candle here eventually in the diamonds. If we take a look at the SPY, our SPY obviously very, very strong yesterday, pushing up, breaking through to new record highs. Unfortunately, we did it on a little bit lighter volume, and that breadth was really weak. But now we've got that OpenAI news today, and maybe we party on here and continue to make record highs to the upside. If the bears were to have anything to say, this is the area here you'd want to be watching. If we were to break back down below that area in the chart, then we could have a little bit of worry or concern here, pushing back down through here. But again, we've got good support right through here, so we would really have to have a substantial move to break this down, and I think we're going to have to take out these lows right in here to have any major concern coming in the SPY. Very much the same here in the QQQ. The blue sky above, new record highs being made this morning. If the bears were to react in here negatively, pushing back here to test some support would be no problem. We would really have to probably push hard enough to give up yesterday's candle in here to start raising a little bit of concern. And then if we were to do that, then breaking on down into here is a possibility. IWM lagging a little bit behind. It didn't benefit from all of those big techs pushing up yesterday and stretching out, but a nice bullish engulfing candle this morning, gapping up to retest this resistance here in the chart. So if those bulls can continue to push, breaking through that resistance, then we'll start looking up here, see if we can break out to record highs here in IWM, and every reason to believe that's possible, and maybe even with a good stretch, push up here and attack, breaking through that shooting star pattern in the chart. If the bears have anything to say, you can see a pushback. We got a little bit of support right in here that could hold us. That'd be no problem. We can clearly see we can push back into here, and that's been no problem for the market. So could be a little bit range bound here in IWM. It would be breaking down below those areas, getting past these lows in here that would probably raise some concern in the market. But the resiliency of this market is remarkable. We have that capability of shaking off anything. We had terrible numbers in ADP yesterday. Didn't care. Just keep buying, keep pushing to the upside. So we'll see how much longer that lasts, but just be prepared if it does start to change. Could be some quick moves with that breadth being so weak and so low. And remember, we're still in that blackout period. That blackout period is actually growing as we head into the next round of earnings, which won't be until the 14th of the month. If we take a look at what we have going on in our economic calendar today, we got a little bit in here that could move us around. Clearly, jobless claims are going to be important for us today. We've got a Challenger job cut report. Last time the Challenger job cut came in at 85,979, so not a consensus number. Just kind of keep an eye on that one. It's not typically a market mover, but jobless claims can be definitely a market mover, and they're suggesting in the consensus that increases a little bit to 224,000. So watch that carefully here today. If it stays in that range, probably no major problem. That's still well above that bad number we had a few weeks ago. So maybe showing some stabilizing in here, unless that ADP really does show a major shift or a major change in here on those jobless claims, which could move the market. Then if we take a look at factory orders will be out this morning. We've got an improvement there to 1.4 on the positive side by consensus. That would be an improvement of the negative 1.3 last time. We've got natural gas report, and then we're going to be into bond auctions and the Fed balance sheet here at the end of the day. Keeping in mind, as we look forward into Friday, we were probably going to have a lot of weight placed on this number on Friday morning, but that has now been canceled. We're not going to get that jobs data here today because of the government closing, and the market seems to just be partying on, and no worries with that. So watch that carefully. Then let's take a look at our earnings calendar, which is extremely light today. We have one earnings report here today. ANGO reporting this morning. That's popping through to the upside here, and there are no notable earnings after the bell today. None. So no earnings after the bell today. Not even just notable. No earnings after the bell today. So very light on that account. Let's take a look at some stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, once again, I know it gets monotonous day after day after day, but if you can help me out by clicking that subscribe button, by clicking that thumbs up button, leaving a brief comment, that helps the channel to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who does do that. I truly, truly appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And again, I never would have suspected this many folks would appreciate something that has no hype and no prediction in it to be as accepted as it is. So thank you very much, everyone. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up. Remember, everyone, these aren't recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence and be very, very careful in this market, just in case that whipsaw or that big change does suddenly occur. We suddenly start to care about these valuations and extension. So watch that carefully. But for now, take a look at some of these uranium plays out here that continue to set up. CCJ in here, really coming into a pretty interesting setup here where we've rested back, consolidated. We're still holding above support. I would watch for that opportunity in here. CCJ, a little bit of bullishness in the market. We could push on through. And remember, if we're going to continue to power all of this AI, we're going to need all the uranium, all the natural gas, all the coal, anything that we can turn on. We're going to need it all to supply the power here for AI. So watch that carefully in CCJ. URA got an upgrade yesterday, and if you take a look right in here, very bullish pattern setting up here in URA. Just a little bit of bullish push, and I think we can start stretching that on through to the upside. I would watch that closely. Of course, I'm kind of partial to UEC, still holding this trade. I've taken some great profits on it already, just waiting for that next potential move here to the upside. My current position is hedged as well with short strike, so looking pretty good in there on that stock. Let's take a look at another area. Boy, something that really is starting to give a little bit of concern here as we were moving up strongly yesterday. We saw the financials struggling in here quite a bit. Big, strong pullback here in the financials. So watch this. If XLF were to fall off of this ledge here, we might see some significant selling coming into play. And we saw stocks like Wells Fargo had a really rough day yesterday, breaking support, breaking trend. Schwab pulling back pretty hard yesterday. Bank of America pulling back. So watch these carefully in here. Little bit of concern starting to show up in those stocks, and we certainly don't. We kind of need those financials to stay bullish here in the market, so watch those carefully. Let's take a look at some of the others out there. Boy, you know, there's no way that you can look at this chart in Apple and see bearishness. I'd mentioned this yesterday. Watch for a little bit of bullish push, and that could pop right through to these all-time highs. Interestingly enough, it didn't. It popped, went up there and took a look at it and said, we need a little rest, and pulled back here. So watch this carefully. I still think there may be another opportunity with a push if those bulls can get going to break right on through that area. And with all the enthusiasm this morning in tech, maybe that's possible. Boy, Tesla, even though there's lots of analysts out there suggesting, they just want to hate on it. But boy, really strong move yesterday. Started a little slow and then took off. We'll want to be watching this as we test these next areas of resistance in the chart here, trying to pop through and maybe even breaking into all-time highs here in Tesla. So watch that closely. AMD finally got a little bit of burst of energy yesterday, pushing up off of here, and maybe we're going to start resuming an upside trend here in AMD. Long consolidating rest in here, getting a nice push here this morning. Watch that carefully. Next resistance in the chart up here. Keep an eye on that. Google had a great day yesterday, pushing up. Maybe this holds in this support area here and follows on through to the upside as the big tech just continues to rule the day here in the market. There are a couple that are a concern. Amazon had a nice pop up yesterday, but honestly, this sets up in a potential short pattern here after failing back below its 50-day moving average off that lower high. And as we stretch this back out here toward that downtrend area in the chart, I would watch that for a potential short. And Meta, despite some news yesterday that they're going to be using all of your data input, voice input, and everything else for showing you ads, gapped lower here yesterday in a kind of a negative reaction. So watch that carefully as this pops back up, because here again, we have that potential that maybe we've entered into a downtrend here in Meta after failing that 50-day moving average. Watch that closely here in those charts. So there are some bullish, there are some bearish out there to be paying attention to. Take a look at Cleveland Cliffs. Now, I have a bias in this. I'm holding this trade, but Cleveland held in here nicely yesterday. If we're going to see gold and silver continue to move up in those commodities, and realizing we're going to need a massive amount of steel for all of the construction that we're doing around this country, and all of the infrastructure build out that we're going to need to do for AI. Watch that carefully here in Cleveland Cliffs, having a pretty good setup in here itself. Watch that for a move to the upside. You could look at Steel Dynamics. Steel Dynamics had a zoomer of a move yesterday, breaking through all of this resistance in here. Any kind of little rest or pullback, I think, could set up an opportunity there in Steel Dynamics. You might look at things like MT. MT continues to look good. Nucor on the steel side. This has been lagging behind and maybe even setting up a short trade, but watch that carefully in here on that. Keep an eye on these stocks that are in the aerospace and defense area. Boy, they have been zooming here lately. Nice move there in General Dynamics. Any little rest or pullback would set up an opportunity. RTX continues to run in that upside trend. That's looking really, really good. You could look into Lockheed Martin. That's still showing an awful lot of strength. I would keep an eye on some of those stocks, looking pretty good overall. So if we take a look at utilities continuing to look really, really good. Stretching here to the upside, worth watching that, breaking through some all-time high or recent high. Is it all-time highs? Yeah, it is. It's all-time highs. And XOU breaking through that, and every reason to believe that could continue to stretch, because we know we're not going to be using less power. We're only going to be using more in the AI era. So watch that carefully here. I think there's some good opportunities in stocks in that sector as well. So there's a few stocks for you to pay attention to, a few things for you to be watching. I want to wish you all a fantastic day. Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Y'all take care, be safe. I'll see you right back here bright and early Friday morning. And as always, I wish you all the very best.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Rideways my ranch on the trader's trail, trading with heart where the profits prevail.